All right, welcome back, all you handsome fellas, to the Bigg Fella Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Jonathan Jacobs. Jonathan, welcome. I'm excited to be talking to you today, man.
No, thank you. I have been looking forward to this since you reached out, so I'm really excited to be here and be chatting.
Yes, John is a really cool dude. He does a lot of really important work, I believe. And if you guys have noticed some of the previous episodes, about 4 or 5 episodes ago, we had Johnny Cole on from the Hey Brother Co. Hey Brother Johnny. He is the gentleman who connected Jonathan and I and me and some other really cool creators. And I think we're going to have a cool conversation today. For those of you that don't know, unless there's somebody like Mike Pridgeon who comes on the podcast all the time, a lot of my guests I'm meeting for the first time. And Jonathan and I talked for about 4 minutes before I hit press record. And so we're walking into this with only the knowledge of each other through social media and that we have the mutual friend in Johnny. So it's going to be a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the social validation I need for you is your social and that Johnny vouched for you. So I'm
that's all we need. Yeah, that. Right, that's all we need. That's all we need. So I think we got some really cool topics to talk about today. I think we're going to be hitting a lot on physical movement, a lot on running, walking, and how that kind of affects your mental health as a man, and how that connects to how you can use that as a bridge of connection to just be a better dude. I love that's like one of the top lines in your bio. I think is just a guy trying to be a better dude or something like that.
Yeah, I think
and I love that.
My bio is I'm a fan of the Mets. And I'm a guy
yeah.
to be a better man.
And that's pretty much everything that I stand for and everything I want my content to be. And that's, some days are easier than others. But for those of you that have that no idea who Johnny is, Jonathan is, sorry, I'm going to call you Johnny just off of rip, not even with the connection to the other Johnny.
I would be so happy to be confused for him. So that is...
He's quite the Giga Chad. Anyway, Jonathan, please introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, what you do, where you're from, and other than the fact that you're a fan of the Mets.
Yeah, so for sure, I always say there's two really important things to know to get to know me. Number one, I am a New Yorker based in Los Angeles. The best compliment I ever got was that somebody told me I deliver Los Angeles information in New York packaging. So put that on my headstone when I die. I'm happy to be known that way. The second thing that I think is important to get to know me is someone once gave me a piece of advice, and they said in life you do 3 things. 1 thing for your heart, 1 thing for your wallet, and 1 thing for your mind. So to get to know me, for my wallet, I'm a digital marketer. Previously co-founded, scaled, and sold a marketing agency called Digital Natives Group, and I'm currently a partner in a creative advocacy agency called Loudmouth. We do a lot of fun stuff online. For my head, I'm a community organizer, do a lot of great work in kind of the nexus of marketing and nonprofit and community organizing work. And for my heart, and for what brings us together today, is my quest to be a better man and to help the other men in my community and who will join my community be a better man.
Love that, man. That's beautiful. I love all of it. I love all of it. And for those of you that were barking about the getting this on Spotify, this will be on Spotify. I know sometimes the YouTube quality isn't the best, but for those of you that haven't been notified that are watching on YouTube, this podcast is available on Spotify now. I needed to say that real quick because I got some. I love all of my clients to death, so I'm just gonna say it like it is. Some smart asses that are my clientele that tell me it's on there now, fellas. Okay. But no, dude, that's super interesting. And I think we'll have to talk a little bit more after this about some of that business stuff and kind of what you've done with selling your company. And because that's super fascinating to me. And I'm looking for more ways to, just make a deeper impact outside of just coaching. I've got some really cool stuff planned and I want to get more into the organization. And anyway, we'll talk more about the business stuff afterwards. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, the big thing that I saw that I think we could start as a good conversation point is you seem to have a pretty open mind. And one of the pieces of content that I first saw from you that really stood out to me was some of your content talking about like messages to text your friends and like that are guy friends, or just like how to communicate with your guys. I was luckily raised by a very emotionally available dad, which is kind of rare for people my age. A lot of, people who were raised by boomers or Gen Xers where they got the traditional, dad was closed off, showing emotion as weakness, blah, 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 blah. And, there's pros and cons that come with that, obviously. And for me, I was told from a young age, like, it's not as much of it's not something to be ashamed of. But a lot of my guy friends either were missing that or lost their fathers at a young age or just don't have that dynamic and they don't know how to do it. And I think, firstly, I'd just like to get your opinion on for guys who don't feel comfortable or don't know how to express some of the stuff that they feel like they've got bottled up. And they don't necessarily think, therapy might be for them or whatever, just kind of a gateway drug into self-help around like actually feeling your emotions. Because my approach to this is I'm all about hard work. I'm all about taking care of your body. I'm all about doing what the responsible choice is. But what a lot of people forget is that taking care of your emotions as a man is the responsible thing to do. It's not this cushy soy boy, whatever the stigma around it is. Yes.
I'll tell you this kind of piece about vulnerability. I'll give you an example from my own life. And what I'll say as the entree to this is what I think is important for men to remember. Also, first of all, I'm no expert. I can only speak from my own experience. So I want to make sure every man watching this knows that, everyone watching this knows that. I would say for men, the thing to remember, if you're like, you feel like you have something you want to get off your chest, you feel like you want to be more vulnerable with a friend, whatever that thing is, the person on the other side's probably feeling that too. And you're both just too afraid to go over that bridge. And I'll give you an example from my own life. We'll probably talk about it at some point in this dialogue because it's a pretty seminal moment for me, as I think it is for most people. My father passed away in the summer of 2020. And the way that it happened, it was a complete and total surprise. He pretty much, passed away in a period of 2 weeks. He was in a coma for that total 2 week period. And it was a strange time. He was dying. There was a lot of stuff that came out, again, that I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. There was the pandemic going on, so I didn't really have friends and community around me. It was just me, my girlfriend at the time, my mom, and my sister. And
2020, yeah.
Exactly. And while a lot of really good friends did show up for me, probably, my number one or two best guy friend, we were talking regularly, but he wasn't asking me how I was doing. We were sharing memes. We were talking about politics. We were talking about sports, talking about the Mets. But other than the day kind of where I told him it was happening, he never said, hey, how are things? Hey, how are you? Hey, what's going on? And it was starting, 4, 5, 6 days in, it was making me feel a kind of way where I was like, does he forget this is happening? Is he not concerned with what's going on for me? And I didn't listen to that for a little while because I was like, I'm going to come off as mean. I'm going to come off as too much. And then I said, well, also, eventually, I'm depriving him of the chance to show up and be the person that I want in a friend, and that's not right, and that's not fair, because maybe he can do that. And then also, I'm not being honest to myself, because I deserve that treatment from someone. I deserve to be checked in on and have that need fulfilled. So eventually, I texted him, and I said, hey, I know this is awkward, but, it's kind of strange to me that you haven't asked me how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, what's going on for me in this pretty crazy time. And he took a beat and he said, I'm sorry, I kind of assumed if you needed something or you wanted to talk about it, you'd bring it up. And I figured if you weren't, we'll use this. You can have a distraction. And to his credit, came back, checked on me every day, every other day as this now was going on for kind of the rest of that duration. And I think it was a real seminal moment for our friendship because now the things that he'll say to me about me are so revealing and so personal and so complimentary in a way where we don't often hype our bros up without making it a joke or without saying not to be sus,
Yeah.
It was really important and it was difficult to do, but I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny. I have kind of a similar, not the same thing at all. But I experienced kind of a similar situation as kind of a byproduct. I went through a pretty bad experience within my personal family, immediate family. Last year, someone was just really deeply struggling with their mental health, and it got ugly for a few months. And I was kind of thrown in the ringer into that. I walked in I was there to help my people, but it was tearing me up pretty bad. And I didn't want to show it with my clients because I wanted to, provide a certain level of service. I'm sure I didn't do as good of a job as I maybe thought I did at the time, right? But one of my best friends, Malachi, came over to me, and there's a show on Netflix called The 3 Body Problem, and I didn't have like, it sounded kind of interesting, but I didn't have like an outward like desire. But he knew I was going through something. He's like, I'm coming over this weekend and we're gonna watch the 3 Body Problem. And we came home, we got a bunch of snacks, and we just ate a bunch of food and watched the entire season. And over the course of like 2 or 3 weekends, he came over every Saturday and Sunday. It was kind of that same method where he didn't necessarily. He asked a little bit about, hey, what's going on? Or like, do you want to talk about anything? I didn't really want to at the time just because it was actively unfolding and I didn't want to regardless. But it was kind of that same scenario where a lot of guys are like, I'm going to nudge. If I care about you, I'm going to give you a nudge. I'm going to try to pull you away and try to distract you for a little bit. And I think it's almost kind of this unwritten code of like, if it's a really deep friend that you've had for years, it sounds like the guy that you're talking about has been one of your ride or dies, right? And Malachi is one of those for me. And he and our group kind of know how to do that for each other. But now I've been kind of trying to spearhead like, yo, talk about it. Every time I like checking in, yo, give me the rundown. What's going on? What's going on up there? Whether it's a breakup or something with their work or, it could be anything. But I feel like that's the ultimately most common response for most men if they see one of their guys going through it.
100%.
It's like, I want to be there, but I don't want to initiate the conversation kind of thing. Because then they don't want to be deemed as like sus or whatever.
No, you're 100% right. And from my understanding, from what I've read in some of like the pop science and like sociological stuff about it, is there's a huge gender element to that too, because that is the traditional male approach, which is like, and I think it goes back to this provider protector role of let me solve the problem, let me fix this, let me alleviate the situation. Whereas the way women communicate about it, again, from what I've read in this research and these observational studies, women want to talk about the problem. They want to be in it. They want to sit in it. They want to acknowledge it. They want to have their feelings before they're ready to move on to addressing it. Again, neither one of these is right or wrong. These are kind of stereotypes based on research. And what I've noticed it in my own life in the way that I interact with partners, right? When I first got my dog, the girl I was dating at the time, my dog peed on this girl's shoes. And she was like really upset and angry about it. And like, I'm so annoyed, the damn dog. And I was like, it's shoes, it's okay. She's a little dog. What are you going to do? Trying to make light of the situation. And she was like, no. She's like, dude, I just want to be annoyed for a minute. Like, I will get over it. We'll move on. We'll address the next thing. But I need to sit in this feeling that I have right now and honor that, experience it, and then move on from it. And that was like, for me, the wake-up call of, oh, I'm doing the thing I read about. I actually do manifest it in the same way.
Definitely. You're like in my brain right now because I literally said something about that in some of the videos I had recorded earlier today. Like bar for bar, line for line. I haven't dove into the research, but it is incredibly validating because a lot of my experience and a lot of the stuff that I do talk about is purely off of real authentic experiences that I have with the people that I work with. Right? Not to say that I'm not also doing research on top of that, but like that's where I really feel the credibility to talk about it when I see these patterns in real people. And I also see them within myself. And to call myself out a little bit, I am very solution oriented. Solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem, solve the problem. As opposed to sometimes you need to slow the hell down and let yourself feel it occasionally. But I think you're totally right, especially for men. Problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. And what I deal with, or when I'm working with my people, and I'm sure you've dealt with this too, maybe you can resonate it with yourself, because people pleasing. People pleasing is a form of, let me solve the problems that I need to solve for myself, but really spend most of my time trying to solve other people's problems or do what I think is solving other people's problems just to make them happy and appease to them. But in your head, it's just kind of this checklist of like, okay, now they won't be mad at me, or now this person's taken care of. And then that leads them to the state of burnout. And then they're burnt out, repeating the same cycles over and over again. But I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't know how to reach out to my homies. I don't know how to like confide within the bros. And I think you nailed it right on the head. I could not agree more. And it's incredible to see. I've had uncomfortable conversations with some of my female friends because I do that. Like I've been living with Ashley, my partner, for 6 years now. And I obviously see it with her, but I also have had to do better on my part, especially with these past 2 years. Now I'm like more aware of it. It's like I need to give them space to stew in it a little bit, and then ask them and help them kind of stew, or, you know, stew is probably not the greatest word for it, but feel it, be in it.
Acknowledge it, hold it. Like there's other ways to say it too, and I also think the other piece too is like you start to realize eventually, okay, well, I'm making light of it, right? I'm trying to laugh, distract.
Yeah.
Part of it's because maybe I'm uncomfortable being uncomfortable and experiencing like this is actually about me trying to get out of the situation as fast as possible.
Oh yeah.
And I know there are times where I've like tried to make the joke, tried to de-escalate because I don't want to be uncomfortable for any longer than I have to be, and I'm still trying to be better about that to this day.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines, I didn't get it from anybody, but I'm sure it's been said in more eloquent ways before. But one of the things I always like to say is the quality of your life is directly determined by your own ability to have difficult conversations and to start difficult conversations, right? Like I said, it's not a super novel idea, but it's incredibly true. And what a big part of what I like to do, and what it seems like you're doing as well, and what you're promoting, is destigmatizing some of the difficult conversations with your friends. Like part of the mission, this is a little bright. Let me turn this down. That's better. Part of, it seems like where our missions kind of align is we're trying to, for most guys, to make the world a better place. Let's show them that this big, scary, horrifying thing, like sharing your feelings, shrink that problem, because it's not shrink it to minimize it, but the perceived size and scariness of the problem, the fear around that problem is way smaller than you think. Just go do it. Go try it out. It feels fine. It's not a scary thing. It's going to feel scary when it's new, when it's the first time you've really freaking done it for yourself. But also showing that you become a more capable man when you do that. Like the most masculine, people that I look up to are the ones that don't shy away from the conversations, the ones that are initiating the tough stuff.
I think the silliest thing in the world is this idea that the man who doesn't admit vulnerability is the stronger man. Like, how is it not the epitome of strength to say, this is me, these are my weaknesses, these are my Achilles heels, go hit me right here. But I'm still ready to stand up in front of you, tell you what those are, and believe that I can stand here, like in the face of you potentially taking them. Like, to me, that's the ultimate strength. To acknowledge your weaknesses and let everybody know what they are and still stand there, still occupy your space, still claim your territory. It's crazy to me that we think it's the opposite, because we all have weaknesses. We all have vulnerabilities. We all have pain points. Like, it's false to assume otherwise. And I think to kind of like what you were saying at the outset here about this whole kind of like modeling of helping the change that we want to create, like, I think a thing that we have forgotten as it comes to men, because it's true for everyone, all walks of life, regardless of gender or ethnic identity or religion, you can't be what you can't see. And if we don't see men doing X, Y, or Z, how are we going to legitimize, destigmatize, normalize those things for other men? If I'm not here telling men, I actually told my friend what I needed from him, how is another man going to know that he has permission to do that? Because when we've not demonstrated before that that's a thing to do, we now have to show that. It's no different than making sure that there is, a woman president in a show or a black female president in a movie, right? It's all these things so that that little child watching at home sees it and goes, oh, I can do that. That can be me. It's no different for us at any age, at any stage of life. And I think that's, to me, the belief I have about what I try to do online is if I can reach one person and they can see me doing something and they go, oh, I didn't know I can do that, boom. Like that's the whole ballgame for me right there.
It's one thing to hear it and read it, but to see it is, especially for men. I love being a dude. I'm glad I was born a dude. We're fucking Neanderthals, dude. We're just big old hunky monkeys sometimes. And seeing is believing. Like it like when you can visualize it, you're going to internalize it and remember it. Like, whoa, my friend just like opened up about his feelings. What the fuck? Like you're going to remember that so much more than just seeing somebody tweeting about how important it is. So I think that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more. Let's pivot a little bit, but still kind of keep this conversation going, because something that I love that I saw that you do is these walk and talks. And I want you to talk all about it because I want to hear more about it, partially because I want to steal your freaking idea. But secondly, I can so deeply resonate with this. My last run was on Sunday with one of my best friends, Greg. We did a 10K, about 10-minute pace. It was a nice, chill run. It felt like I was out there for 15 minutes because we were yapping the whole time. We were yapping about some serious stuff. Most of it was like talking about the NBA and the Nuggets roster construction and the Pistons roster. Like, we're big NBA nerds. And so we were talking about that while running the whole time, that passed the time. We felt incredible afterwards. And it just running and walking with a friend, as simplistic as it sounds, is one of the most potent pleasures in my life.
Absolutely. Because, quite frankly, it makes sometimes one of the worst activities in the world a lot more enjoyable. And I'll say, having just done the Chicago Marathon, the 17 miles of that race that I ran with a couple friends of mine flew by. They were like nothing. Like, I barely even remember them because they were such a treat and they were so enjoyable. And we were barely talking, but simply having the companionship around me made it all better. And I'll say this, thank God you did not invite me on your run, because the only thing I'd be able to say is that I will not root for the Knicks again until Jim Dolan doesn't own the team. I will not root for the Knicks again until Jim Dolan doesn't own the team.
I feel that, man. I know what it's like for shitty ownership. It is the worst thing in the world.
I mean, Woody Johnson owning the Jets, I'm sorry, two of the worst ownerships. I personally, my heart goes out to you for that as a Jets fan. That is tough. But I'm born in Michigan. So I run with the Lions. I was there for the 0-16 season. So I feel like
I know what it's like. Dude, it's rough. And we can have a whole nother podcast talking about that, honestly.
But so I'll tell you about those events, but here's where I want to get into a little bit of backstory. So I'm going to monologue for a minute about why I decided to start this group and why I wanted to enrich my relationships with men. So, I talked about my father's death in the summer of 2020. And what's important to know about that story is that, like I said, it kind of came out of nowhere. It was completely unexpected. He was in a coma for 2 weeks and then died. And while he was in that coma, I found out he was an alcoholic. And this is information I had never received. I had no idea in my 31 years of life that he had this relationship to addiction and to alcohol. With hindsight, it makes all the sense in the world, but I had never known, I had never seen a sign, I had no idea. You can imagine, I've asked myself questions every day for the past 5 years about what I may have missed, and I've had to make my peace with what I did know, what I didn't know, what I didn't want to know, etc. But so I find this information out, he dies, and we're holding a virtual memorial service, as most people who lost someone during COVID had to do. And we didn't do a Zoom because, as my mother said, we don't want anybody looking at us. So we set up like a little shrine in the house, and we aimed a camera at it, and we just did a Facebook Live for like 2 or 3 hours. And people could come, we played some music, and people could come on and leave a comment or a note. And as I was reviewing the transcript afterwards, what I started to notice is my accountant was there. My business partners were there. My friend's dad was there. My mom's mahjong people were there. My mom's old boss was there. The guy my dad ride the train with was there. A guy my dad played golf with was there. My dad's childhood friend was there. But where were his actual friends? Almost everybody who was showing up was a situational acquaintance or connected to me and my mom. And it's not like my father was 90 years old and at the end of his life and his friends had started to die off. He was 67. He was still very young. What started to become apparent to me is that my dad had maybe one capital F, call you on your bullshit, hold you when you're in pain, hype you up when you're doing well, friend. And then I started to realize, holy shit, how is that manifesting for me in my life? Because what I'm starting to notice as I turned 31 is I have amazing, rich relationships with women in my life. I'm continuing to build, and I'm continuing to make new connections. I have amazing, rich relationships with men I've known since childhood, elementary school through high school. But as I've come of age as an adult, I have not developed meaningful new relationships with men. And if I can, it's maybe 1 or 2 that I can count. Am I falling down the same path? Not to say that I don't have a lot of friendships, because again, I did have those, but I'm not building friendships with men. And I'm seeing now the synergy of how my father didn't have that, and how my relationship with him influenced my relationship with men. And I don't want to go down that same path. I want to build those relationships.
Right.
So part of the steps that I've taken in that direction was starting this men's walking group out here in Los Angeles. And I have to start talking about that by giving a tip of the cap to Mark Green, who started the group in New York, who's a very good friend of mine, and he suggested I start it here in LA. And it was perfect timing. I was looking for new ways to be involved in men's work and men's groups. I was moving to a new neighborhood where I didn't really know anyone. And if you're not from Los Angeles, if you don't have friends in your neighborhood, you don't have friends. So I was really excited for an opportunity to get to meet some men. So I threw up a post on Reddit. Within 2 days, I had 30 guys emailing me that they wanted to come join a walk.
Nice.
Our first walk, we had about 7 guys show up. Our second walk, we had 17. I would say on average, we now get between 3 and 7 guys per walk, which is like, to me, 5 or 6 is the perfect number.
Yeah.
It's not too unruly. But what's great about it, and what I love about it, is that it's actually sometimes really uncomfortable and difficult for men. All we do is walk for an hour. We walk out about 1.5 miles. We walk back 1.5 miles. And you just talk about what's on your heart, what's on your mind, how you're feeling, how you're doing, what you've been carrying. We get men across a diversity of age groups from, I would say we've had as young as 25 to, I don't ask ages, if I'm going to guess, probably about 75 or so, because we do have some men who are long retired and have grandchildren. And it's really, really beautiful. And I think walking unlocks some serious potential because, you know, there's the saying that men do activities side by side and women do activities where they're sitting across from each other, right? Like they're eating for a
I've
glass
heard
of
that,
wine,
yeah.
Men are watching the sporting event.
Yep.
And what's great about walking is, yes, we're side by side, but there's nothing to distract us, right? We're not people watching. We can only be in conversation with one another. And it gives us the invitation to, yes, walk silently alongside each other if we need it. But as soon as we're ready to open up, I'm turning and looking at you, and we're engaging in dialogue, and we're beginning that conversation. And it's been amazing. You know, I think we're coming up on about 8 months now of doing walks, and we've got some great regulars coming through. But I'm starting to hear the stories from men about how significant this has been to them. You know, we've got chapters, I think, in almost 20 cities now. And, you know, I shit you not, we have multiple stories of people saying to us, this saved my life. You know, I was in a really low place before I discovered this group. And this is helping, this is not the thing, but this is helping me turn things around.
That's awesome. That is amazing. I absolutely love that. And I think there's a lot to be said. Like, I think it does a great job because what a lot of, I've talked to Johnny about this as well. If I can articulate an actual functioning point. You're a very eloquent speaker, by the way, in case no one told you that before. You put together your words very well. As somebody who's actively trying to get better at it, you are definitely advanced in that category.
Well, I'll say
Anyway.
build a very welcoming and comfortable environment, so you make it.
Well, sweet. Thank you. The point that I am trying to kind of connect here is I'm seeing a lot of new creative ways to get men who you wouldn't, guys that you wouldn't traditionally think would prescribe to this kind of thing, because we're changing some of the packaging, right? Because no, is it therapy with a licensed therapist? Absolutely not. It's not a replacement for that. However, it's a baby step towards something like that if someone were to need it. It's community, it's activity, and your average Joe Schmo that does have that more traditional mindset that they've had ingrained into them by the older guys from, like, you know, the Boomer and Gen X generations, is more likely to subscribe to the idea of, like, okay, this isn't that, like, this is cool, you know, like, however people like to frame different new things like that. And a big part of what I've been really, really hammering in a lot of my or I've been trying to hammer in a lot of my conversations with people is there's this idea that there's a phenomenal video essay on YouTube called "The Answer Is Not a Hut in the Woods," and I could link it yeah, it's great. It is fantastic. It's a pretty lengthy one, but it's I think it's something along the lines: the answer is not a hut in the woods or a ranch in the woods or something like that. And so what he makes some fantastic points in that video, but something that I really took away from it is I heard the term isolation is poverty. And I think that is a pretty interesting take, because we like to romanticize, or maybe you didn't, but a lot of the men I know, it's the American dream. It's buy a big house, start a family, have a couple animals, go out and everyone says, oh, I'm going to go out west and, disappear from the radar or go off grid or whatever. I hear a lot of guys saying that, when in reality, it's like, I used to think the exact same thing up until the last 2 years and realized, no, talking to people is really nice and having a community to be a part of is really freaking sick. And I am my happiest pretty much period after a phenomenal conversation with people I love. And I am happiest when it doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be physical. I mean, that usually helps when you can do like a run together or a workout together. That elevates the experience. But campfires, lighting the campfire, sitting around, making s'mores. Why do guys romanticize that so much? It's because you're just having conversation. That's when the deep late night talks happen, And it's like, brother, we could do that anywhere. We could do that anywhere. And so I think what you're doing with these walks is you're repackaging community and you're repackaging communication, two things that guys are severely lacking because guys are so isolated right now, into a new way that it's going to lower that barrier to entry and make it feel more welcoming and inviting for your average guy who doesn't believe in that shit.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head, because what you're also starting to bring up is like there's a larger societal problem here, which is like the disappearance of the third space, right? We're
Yes.
The campfire and the s'mores. Well, because that's a place we can all get to and access for the most part and create for ourselves. Well, where are the communal tables where we're all gathering, we're all having conversations? They are disappearing. The free places where we can go sit as a group of people and meet up and connect. There was an article I read in the Atlantic almost a decade ago now, probably, and it was basically saying like the death of the third space, whether it's an Elks Club, a block party, the PTA meeting, is killing our society because we don't know who our neighbors are anymore, and we have nowhere to go to meet them unless we're paying money to join a club, unless we're paying money to sit at the coffee shop. And like that's part of, I think, what I think I can speak for both Mark and I when I say this, like part of our goal with this group is that we want people to be healthy. We want people to make good decisions for themselves and for their community and for our country. And how can people do that when they don't even know who's living 3 doors down from them? And to me, this group is trying to address that need of both building friendships, but also enriching your ties in your neighborhood and in your community and in your block, so that you actually know who these people are, and so that you can create relationships where, hey, I need a cup of sugar. Hey, I need someone to take my kid to school. Hey, I want to go see this movie. Anybody want to come with me? Like, we need to build that infrastructure back in. And I think at this point, I wish corporations could play a role in fixing that. They're not going to. It's on us to do that work now and start making up for what they've been taking away from us.
Snaps, claps, amen, dude. I could not agree more. I am super involved in the research and the impact that we have had when we don't have these places to just chat and yap, and I think, I mean, it's pretty obvious to point out how much social media has affected the deeper isolation, because people are getting comfortable. I'm going to sit on my couch and I'm just going to listen to my own little walking echo chamber of everything I want to hear, and that's effectively what these algorithms are doing. And it's deeply isolating everyone. And like you said, nobody knows their neighbor 2 doors down. And I think I have a kind of a cool story on this, because it really elevated the importance of what this truly means. Because I live in a pretty small town area, pretty smaller town in Michigan. And we have a nice apartment near the water. Like, I'm happy with where it is. And we were here for probably about 9 months, just kind of doing our own thing. And then the following spring, another young couple moves in right next door. And they're carbon copy version of us. They were the same ages. They were both together for almost the same amount of time. They were just really good people. They're our next door neighbors, and we clicked immediately. Like, we became good friends within just a couple of weeks. And we just kind of waved at each other one day, had a conversation, and the rest was history. And then I, bonded really well with him. She bonded really well with her. And then we all just kind of created this really neat group dynamic to where, yes, we're friends, but we're also neighbors. Like, we let their dogs out every day while they're at work, because Ashley and I both work from home. And then there's other favors that we exchange back and forth for one another, where if I'm missing a tool, like I just replaced the battery in my car yesterday, and I almost had to text him because I thought I needed a socket wrench, or a size of a socket wrench, but I had it, so I didn't need it. But I could have, and I know he would have given it to me. And
it's the favor economy, right? Like,
it is. It is. That's a wonderful way to put it.
I wish I could take credit. I've seen it used other.
Oh, of course. No, but that's a great way to describe it.
Part of what gets destroyed when we don't have friendship, and why not having friendship is so detrimental, because it's not just about like having a buddy. It's also having a resource, having a person.
Yes.
Not trying to distill it down to economic and strict terms.
It gives you security.
If you don't have friends, okay, every time you need something, you're going to have to buy it. You're going to have to go get it. Okay? And so now this becomes an economic strain to not have community. You know, for instance, I have a carpet cleaner. How often am I cleaning my rugs? Once a quarter, probably. But all those other days of the month, somebody in my community, in my neighborhood could be using it. If you're someone who needs that tool, but you don't have anyone around, you're going to have to go spend, I don't know how much it was when I bought $160 or something to go buy it. Okay, now there's a real tangible cost to not being a part of a community.
Right. It's a part of being a village. You know, people say people want the benefits of being a village, but they don't want to be a villager. You know, and oh yeah, it's got another resurgence. I heard it like a year or two ago, and it's going back around, but it needs to go back around. And I think economically, especially, you know, we are coming up on our time here, because I do actually have another guest hopping on, which is super cool. But I would love to have you back in the future, because we were going to talk about walking and running, but we just started yapping. So we can definitely make this another. I am more than happy with having repeat guests. I could care less. I would love to continue good conversation. But where I wanted to touch on the kind of to wrap all that up is I'm another story is one of my best friends. They're basically family to us. Our mothers were childhood best friends, basically sisters attached to the hip. And they live about 3 hours north. And every summer we'd go up and see them, hang out. They would come down. It was just, they're your cousins that aren't technically your cousins kind of thing. And then their mother tragically died in a car accident when they were young, when I was about like 10-ish. So we stopped seeing them as much. And then I reconnected, and we got just as close again. And I started going back up there and reconnecting with that family. And I'm like, there was 5 children, and now the oldest are having kids, and now they have, you know, husbands and wives, and they have the kid. It's all uncle this, aunt that, you know, and it's like 20 people. This tribe of people is like 20 people. And I had the blessing of being the best man at my best friend's wedding. And I said it in the speech. This is the strongest family unit I have ever known. And obviously that comes down to them being really fantastic people. But every time I'm up there, it's very apparent. It's like sharing is just the norm. Like, hey, give this, borrow this. My truck's over here. Here, you can use this tool. My tool's at this guy's house. Like, it sounds inconvenient, but if you have that deep level of trust within the people around you, and they don't have to be literally close proximity, but if you can develop a network of people, especially now that like SNAP benefits might be going away for some people here in the coming days, which I'm sure you're overly aware of, which that's a whole nother can of worms that we'll have to dive into another day.
No,
this is exactly, yeah, knock on wood that I'm completely wrong on that, right? But with all those things in mind, with the economy not going trending in a positive direction right now, you can still take care of your stuff, but you can alleviate so much pressure, just like you said, both from an economic standpoint where you have more security and safety because you have people to lean on. Oh, my lawnmower broke. My cousin has one who lives down the road. He's got me. We all don't need 16 vehicles. We all don't need 4 lawnmowers. We could share one. Sharing is caring. We got to get back into that. And it's kind of a redundancy to say and break it down into terms like that. But you gain a friend and you gain less economic stress and worry when you have a unit of people to rely on.
Yep, absolutely. I completely uplift that. That is like the actual safety net, right? Like that's
yes.
In all terms. There's our social safety net, but there's like our relational safety net that is something we all deserve to have, and we should all be working to continuously build and take care of for ourselves and for each other.
And if you are somebody who wants to better themselves and wants to be a better dude, as Jonathan and I both are striving to be. Just be a better guy. This kind of comes with this obsession with capability. To be a more capable person and feel more secure, that bottom line, God forbid you go through a situation, anybody listening goes through a situation where they do run dry financially. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to call somebody. And in hard times, you'll be able to lean on each other. And when you have that network and you have that deep relationship where you have helped them, you have carried them through a hard moment where they lost a parent or they lost a friend or they're going through a breakup or a divorce, those bonds are not just going to make you feel fantastic in the moment and more connected with another person in the moment, which in my opinion, that's what life is all about. I don't need the cars. Just give me proximity to people I love and let me communicate and interact with them often. That's all I need. I don't need anything fancy.
Johnny was showing me something he was going to post on Instagram today, and it basically said, never forget that you're always closer to being on SNAP benefits than you are to being a billionaire. And I think that's something we all need to be reminded of and need to remember how to act like. I think there's a little bit of that, like the poison of the traditional American dream and the bootstrapping component of it, where we all want to believe we're going to be that person, but there's a reason there's only not that this number is okay, but there's only a few thousand or tens of thousands of billionaires, but there's millions of people getting these benefits here, right? Like, we are not all ending up there. Hopefully there should be even fewer of those billionaire numbers, but that's episode or interview number 2 or 3 or 4 that we're going to
yeah, considering absolutely, man. Well, Jonathan, it was a great conversation. I'm gonna have to figure out what the heck I want to title this. I think that's gonna be kind of the hardest issue right now, getting back into the podcasting thing.
What the hell do I title this?
Yeah, pretty much. But no, man, I think this is a fantastic conversation. Maybe next time we have you on, we can talk a little bit more about your running journey. For those of you that don't know, Homeboy completed the Chicago Marathon and went through a full fitness journey of his own, and I didn't even talk about it. So bad host, host. But overall, man,
the vibes of the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I prefer. And if I had more time, I'd let this bad boy run for real. But today, this is what we got. We still got a good 40-minute episode out of it. So
absolutely, no, I'm excited for the next one. I would love to, share my story from being 280 pounds.
Yes.
Marathons and where I am today.
We should totally do that again. We can get something set up. But Jonathan, tell everybody where to find you and how to connect with you and what your mission is and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. You can find me online, jonathanjacobs.com. I'm primarily on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, jonathanjacobs89 or across those. And if you're interested in walking and talking with men and you're in Southern California, you're welcome to come join our group. Starting a chapter of your own is super easy. Email me, DM me, hop on my website and fill out the contact form, whatever. I'm happy to help you get started. But yeah, I can't wait to meet everybody out there who's listening. And also later today, I've got to go order myself some of your merch because I'm obsessed with it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate it. All right, y'all. You heard it. Jonathan Jacobs. Go check him out. He's a good dude. He's doing good work, and he's spreading the good word. And then it's definitely something that I approve of and I would love to see more of. So, all right, y'all. Go check him out. I love you to death. Keep it simple, big fella.